The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle by honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Buenos días y bienvenidos a esta comunidad donde ampliamos el círculo del amor honrando el valor y la dignidad inherentes de todas. We greet all those who join us this morning. We hope those watching the live stream will fill out the online attendance form and refer to the many announcements in the online order of service. We ask those here in person to take a moment after the service to seek out and introduce yourself to someone you don't yet know. We have visitors every Sunday. I've already met 4 this morning. Please make them feel welcome. Now please join Dr. Rock and the Sanctuary Choir for our first hymn.
Good morning. Please turn in your gray hymnals to number 188. Come, come, whoever you are. We are actually going to sing this in a 2-part round. So the choir and everybody will sing it one time all the way through. Then the choir will sing it one time, and I'll sing with you all, and we'll be the part 2. Okay? Please rise in body or spirit.
Come, whoever you are. We gather this morning with words of universal welcome, inspired by the former president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Susan Frederick Gray. If you are an immigrant, a refugee, undocumented, you are welcome here. If you are Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Christian, Zoroastrian or Buddhist, a theist or an atheist, you are welcome here. If you are gay or straight, woman or man, transgender or queer, you are welcome here. If you have a disability, visible or invisible, you are welcome here. If you want for nothing or struggle to make it each day, you are welcome here. If you are heartbroken, angry, or afraid, you are welcome here. If you hold a dream of peace and love alive in your heart, you are welcome here. Whoever you are, your whole self, you, your family, you are welcome here. For this is a community of diversity and inclusion, and it is good to be together. So welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, and come, friends, let us worship together.
Nuestras vidas, encendiendo esa
Please join with me in reading the words that are printed in your order of service to our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
Good morning. In this era of AI, I was given a charge by the person that decided that this was going to be what our sermon was today. And the charge was, or suggestion, was to find an AI song. Well, I said, oh, that's interesting. And I went online, and in 10 seconds, I just typed in, AI create a UU hymn for a Sunday service. And this is the song that popped up. So let me help you understand a little bit of the context of it. It was UU values, that was the concept. And then also, they gave us words with some chord suggestions. And they said, come up with a melody, but keep it simple. And so I gave it to Chelsea. And Chelsea actually scored it. And so that the choir could sing it in two parts. So we hope you enjoy it. We also want you to know that when we were in rehearsal on Wednesday, we realized that there were some mistakes. There were a couple of word text changes that just didn't sit well with us. So one was, it said, our ancients. And so one of the choir members said, I've never heard our ancients. I heard the ancients, or what was the, or our ancestors. So we changed it to the ancients. And the other was, it said something about standing, take a stand. And you know, that doesn't go along. So we changed it to seek to understand. So we hope you enjoy this.
In the dawn of new beginnings, where the
Now is the time when we send our young folks off to their religious education classes with Carol and all of her great volunteers. And young folks, as you go, we want you to know that we love you and we're really pleased that you're here with us this morning, because you're not just part of the future of our congregation, but here with us as an important part of our present. So now please join in singing As You Go as Carol takes the kids off to their classes.
For at least 2 weeks, our minds have been a whirlwind of thought and our bodies a jumble of emotion. So it is even more important now that we periodically take time to calm our minds and bodies, a time when we can decelerate, then pause for contemplation. And so we enter into this time of stillness, a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Settle your body into a comfortable place. Breathe with me as we seek a new peace and understanding, and gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming, we come today in a liminal space with distinct emotions behind and before us. Looking behind, many of us have been grieving the realization that the ideals we have worked for will take longer to achieve than we had hoped. Many of us fear for the rights and well-being of ourselves and vulnerable friends. Looking ahead, we enter into a time set aside to express gratitude for those things we have been given, a time to focus on our blessings and all the good in the world and in our lives. Some of us may be spending time with family whose ideals cause us to lose this focus. May we offer grace and exhibit patience. Through our disappointment, teach us that to work against injustice and oppression, we must see the world as it is. So with clear eyes, we can envision the world that might be. And to see the world as it is to see the beauty, joy, and blessing already there. We should be grateful for that beauty and those blessings while still pledging to work toward the beloved community. In fact, we ground ourselves in the good that we may work for even better. Now, in this liminal space, help us to see those things to be thankful for and express that gratefulness while showing and emboldening us for the work that lies ahead. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We congratulate Laurie and Joe Zukleski, who have a new grandson, Theodore Zukleski. He was born on November 10th, 2024, and was 8 pounds 4 ounces and 21 inches long. Dr. Bossen's cousin, Maury Bossen, and Lila Melton welcomed Nora Shirley Bossen into the world. Congratulations to all the Bossen family. Kikora Senyika has surgery scheduled. She is the daughter of frequent guest to our pulpit, Manglizi Senyika. We hold them close as she has her procedure. Holiday gatherings will be starting soon. As our congregation remains susceptible to COVID, please wear a mask if you have concerns. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those who we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We now enter into a time of stillness. Through the din of cacophony, we find our silent grounding. Amid the destruction, we believe transformation continues. In the spirit of love, hope, and compassion, we enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, and transformation.
Some Unitarian Universalist congregations have the tradition of pulpit editorials. These are short theological reflections by a minister on current events of the day when it does not seem appropriate to shift the entire service to address the challenges of the world. The topic of this week's sermon, Silicon Gods, Artificial Intelligence, and Religion, was picked by our February auction winner. And rather than try to change the entire program for Sunday and reschedule the auction sermon, we thought it would be good to bring the practice to First Unitarian Universalist. Moving forward, I anticipate that pulpit editorials will continue to be an occasional feature. They derive, in some sense, from the sentiment expressed by the poet Marge Piercy. The work of the world is common as mud. In these times, we must continue to do the common work, the work of love, the work of birth, the work of death, the quotidian tasks of planting gardens, baking breads, balancing checkbooks, taking the children to school, trips to the grocery store, the garage, and the workshop, as we prepare for what is to come. They remain with us in hard times and when the world seems at its most beautiful. Mary Oliver, another poet beloved to Unitarian Universalists, offers us this advice. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. The work of the world is as common as mud. Meanwhile, the world goes on. In the last week, the future president has clarified, if the forecast was ever murky, what type of administration his will be. The New York Times columnist and Russian dissident M. Geshen has argued that it will be characterized by morally unconstrained collective egoism. Such a situation, they claim, will be distinguished by permission to abandon societal inhibitions, to amplify the grievances of one's own group and heap hate on assorted others. It will be one where the politics of cruelty run rampant and civil institutions become the playthings of corrupt, unqualified, malignant sycophants who primarily seek private gain. Long ago, the historian Eric Hobsbawm tried to understand why so many working people found living in such a society to be in some way satisfying. He studied medieval mobs, the collections of laborers and journeymen and others who came together in riots to make demands. They clamored for bread when bread was scarce, relief from work when labor was overly harsh, and shelter when homes were hard to find. Some of these mobs directed their anger towards the powers and principalities of the day. Others focused their hostility on foreigners, those who we might call immigrants, and lifted up traditional sources of reactionary power, the Pope, the local bishop, or the monarch, as the solution to their problems. Hobsbawm called these the king and church mob. He wanted to understand why such constellations misdirected their anger. Instead of expressing rage at the people actually responsible for their suffering, the lords of wealth, they transferred it to the most vulnerable members of society. He came to the conclusion that in such situations, the ruler, in some sense, symbolizes the people and its way of life. Additionally, for them, the ruler represents justice. Consider that for a moment and place it alongside Geshen's analysis. Taken together, they form a sort of psychological explanation for the politics of cruelty. Many of the future president's supporters fear that their way of life is being destroyed. He's able to successfully cast them as their representative. He's able to successfully cast himself as their representative. His elevation becomes their elevation. His targeting of civic institutions becomes their form of justice. He ushers in a morally unconstrained collective egoism in which the actual sources of suffering are hidden from view and the most marginalized are targeted. This is another description of totalitarianism. Totalitarian systems, after all, are organized around charismatic leaders who are thought to personify the state's power. They seek total subjugation of all who live within their borders. They claim to have the true narrative, to be the carriers of social norms. And here we turn to the subject of artificial intelligence and religion. Social media has prompted so many of us to assign the wrong groups responsibility for their difficulties. A short of the housing, the result of federal policy, rising inequality, a failure to tax the rich to a sufficient rate. Yet social media, we find in its morass different explanations put forward. False messages about immigrants amplified by algorithms. Click on something appealing that is untrue, and more lies pop up in your social media feed. The algorithms are designed to show you more of what you will like, whatever that means, rather than direct you to reliable sources. Pretty quickly, it's easy to enter into a world of illusion. It can be an isolating one. The quick hits of dopamine that come from engaging with social media easily inspire many of us to spend more and more time looking at our screens and less time connecting with those around us. It becomes harder to get to know your neighbors and easier to imagine those immediately around you as some kind of other rather than just another human being. The isolating world of illusion. In such a situation, the tasks of our religious community become clear. Two are worth lifting up this morning. The first is perhaps the easiest. Collective egoism, totalitarianism, call it what you will, it is built on lies. We have a free pulpit, we have a free religious tradition, and we must name the lies and counter them with the truth. We must specifically name one lie. We might call it the biggest lie. The Universalist part of our tradition is rooted in its opposition. The biggest lie, there are such things as races. The truth, there is only one race, the human race. The biggest lie, nations and borders are natural things. The truth, nations are human creations. The biggest lie, there is this group and that group, and they have nothing in common. The truth, we are all bound up together, all part of the great family of all souls. We are all part of the great family of all souls. This brings me to the second task before us, building communities of care. A politics of care is based on connections to those around us. It requires us to reconnect with our neighbors, to strengthen social ties, to remind each other that no matter how different we are, we all have something in common. We are all children of the earth. We are all children of the same long dead star. We are star children, connected by the very air we breathe, the water that flows through our veins, the stones and soil that forms our bone. To help each other remember this, we need to build community. We need to shine the light of connection strongly enough that it casts away the world of isolating illusion. Last week, I encouraged you to invite someone to come to church with you. I encourage you to share your Unitarian Universalist story by answering the question, why is your life better for being part of First Unitarian Universalist? As we face what is to come, I am going to continue to encourage people to invite them to join us, because together, community offers an antidote to viral algorithms that spread misinformation and separation and encourage the politics of cruelty. And it's not just about inviting people to church. It's about getting to know each other in a way we have not done in a long time. We can and must widen Love's Circle by creating as many circles of care as possible. This means getting to know your neighbors. This means building stronger relationships with your coworkers. It is through acts of community creation that we create the resources necessary to counter the politics of cruelty. Such politics are based on abstraction. They come from things you think you know about others rather than the real challenges of their lives and yours. It is through this work that we can create new social norms, new ways of being that are focused on compassion and commonality rather than fear and disconnection. Hannah Arendt, the great scholar of totalitarianism, believed that the principal task in times like these was maintaining the possibility of friendship between human beings. And truly, that is the task for us in the approaching years, to be a place where we can come and find and strengthen friendships. This is how we widen Love's Circle. This is how we survive. This is how we help others survive. So in the next months, I will be inviting you into conversations about how we can best be a place for building such relationships and nurturing circles of care. But for now, I'm going to turn things over to Chelsea, who's going to give us a moment of musical meditation before we dive into our announced topic.
Good morning. I am Connie Acosta. I'm glad to be with you today to tell you about this project. For each year in the past 3 years, we have selected a Christmas project and shared offering recipient as a combined project. The recipients share our UU values and provide services that reflect our UU principles. Again this year, the recipient is the Hay Center. Though it may be a stretch for many of us, imagine that you are 17 and a half years old, that your father abandoned you and your mom years ago. Your mom is in rehab for the 3rd time, and you have not seen her since the CPS worker took you away 4 years ago. That this 6th foster placement in those 4 years, and it is not a good environment. In 6 months, at 18 years, you will age out of the foster system. You will be completely on your own to create and establish your future with no funds, no family, no friends, no one to support or guide you. It can be overwhelming. Enter the Hay Center. The Hay Center provides a support system to help you create your future. They provide classes in life skills, mentors to guide you, and help you negotiate a lease or find a place to live. Soon they will open residential housing of a temporary nature as you work through what you need to do to be on your own. In the meantime, they provide programs, employment, and other support services, as well as food and supplies until you are able to be on your own or through age 26. Last year, we provided gift certificates and shared funds to provide additional supplemental opportunities. We are again asking this year for gift certificates in any denomination to a maximum of $25, and or funds in any amount that will be converted to gift cards. Gift certificates from any food establishment or retailer are helpful to allow for maximum establishment and utilization of purchasing power. Target and Walmart seem to be the most beneficial cards, but any cards to any place will be greatly appreciated. The cards and/or funds can be dropped in the shared offering basket, taken to the office. I and community services team members will be collecting them before, after, and/or between services in Channing Hall until the end of November. That will be just in time to be distributed at their annual Christmas party. Our values ask us to help better the lives of others. Please give generously. Santa is watching, and he knows everything. An offering will be greatly received.
Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service next to the name of the shared offering recipient, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen.
Please join with me in the words to dedicate our offering found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these our offerings. So in this segment of the service, which we've titled cheekily, Reverend Scott versus ChatGPT, we have given Reverend Scott and ChatGPT the same question. ChatGPT, sorry. ChatGPT is perhaps the most famous artificial intelligence chatbot. It is a large language model, which means that it has taken a massive amount of text gleaned from across the history of human literature and the internet to learn how to mimic human creativity as much as possible. The engine we used was called GPT-4. The question that we asked both Reverend Scott and ChatGPT was the same. It came from my sermon last week. It is, why is my life better for being part of First Unitarian Universalist? So, Reverend Scott, what do you have to say?
Last week, Reverend Colin told of his conviction that building the beloved community is the way forward during these hard times. He asked for each of us to consider the question, why is my life better for being part of this church? One that is committed to building a multicultural, multi-generational, and multiracial community. Well, I was drawn to Unitarian Universalism because I believe spirituality and theology are too important in one's life to accept, without question, someone else's vision and interpretation of them. Now, not that I grew up questioning authority, quite the opposite, but once I realized that I was gay and saw how most churches talked about the subject, it made me wonder what else they were getting wrong. So reason should also inform our spirituality and theology. So Unitarian Universalism's acceptance of divergent spiritual frameworks, reason, and my sexual orientation has certainly made my life better. Although church was important to me as a youth because I sensed that I was gay, it didn't occur to me that being a minister would even be a possibility. This particular church has made my life better because this is the place where I have been able to do what I was called to do, minister to loving and thoughtful people. Helping to build the beloved community by having this place to congregate, a place for those who want to discuss their questions, not accept ready-made answers, a place for those who need a safe space because we diverge from the norm, a place where we stand up for the persecuted, is exactly why my life is better for being a part of this church.
Provides a more accurate response when it is given more context. We thought it would be helpful to expand the prompt to include some of the things that Reverend Scott would intrinsically know when he was getting ready to write his response. So we provided ChatGPT with the following instructions. Write a 250-word response to the question, why is my life better for being part of First Unitarian Universalist? This response will be read at a worship service at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston titled Silicon Gods, Artificial Intelligence and Religion. Please provide the reader with the clearest possible instructions. These should include where in the text she should pause for emphasis, any hand gestures she should make, and general instructions for blocking. The ChatGPT text will be preceded by a text prepared by the congregation's associate minister that will answer the same question. So Cheryl's now going to give us the full text and instructions that ChatGPT generated.
My general directions are to speak slowly and warmly, as if sharing a personal story with close friends, to make eye contact with the congregation as often as possible, to use natural gestures to emphasize gratitude and connection, such as placing a hand on my chest when discussing personal feelings, to stand comfortably, feet hip-width apart, to convey confidence and openness. Pauses and gestures. A pause in brackets indicates a moment to breathe and let the words resonate. Smile in brackets reminds me to use a warm and inviting expression. My life is better for being a part of First Unitarian Universalists because this community reminds me what it means to truly belong. Here, I find a sanctuary, not just from the busyness of life, but from its loneliness. Each week, I am reminded that I am not alone in my questions, my doubts, or my hopes. In a world driven by algorithms and artificial connections, First UU offers something profoundly human, a space to connect with real people, with shared values, and with the deeper mysteries of life. Being part of this congregation has challenged me to grow spiritually, ethically, and personally. The sermons stretch my mind, the conversations nourish my soul, the acts of service remind me that love is a verb. And perhaps most importantly, First UU gives me hope. Hope that in an age of silicon gods, we can still gather to celebrate the divine spark in each of us. For all of this and for all of you, I am deeply grateful.
Here ends the readings. In a moment, we'll have some commentary. But first, Dr. Rock and Chelsea are going to bring us together in song.
I kind of needed a second to reflect. Forgot my glasses. Please turn in your hymnals to number 318. We Would Be One. Rise in body or in spirit and join your voices in song.
All right, Scott, I've got a joke for you.
Hey.
It's a bit dated, but it might still be funny. You ready?
Sure.
Here goes. All right, so I recently got a new VCR. See, I told you it was a bit dated. It's really great.
How great is it?
Well, it's fully programmable. I can set it up to watch all my favorite shows. That way, I don't have to watch them myself. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of time. I'm not sure if the joke is funny, but I do appreciate Scott being a good sport about it. Because it really touches on a central point about artificial intelligence that we will be considering throughout this sermon. What work do we need to do to be humans? What work do we need to do to be humans? We'll return to that question momentarily, but first, a brief explanation about Sunday's service. As we mentioned earlier, every year the auction winner gets to pick a topic for the sermon. This year's winner selected something that is on many of our hearts these days, artificial intelligence. Particularly, they wanted us to reflect on artificial intelligence and religion. It's a subject we're actually going to return to this spring as part of our Future Visions, Future Selves series. But for now, I want to begin our reflections by inviting you to read responsively number 567, To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. It's in our gray hymnal. I'll read the plain text, and you can read the italics. I want to be with people who submerge in the task. Who stand in the line and haul in their places. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. Greek amphoras for wine or oil. Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know that they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and the person for work that is real. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. The last line describes some of the stakes in artificial intelligence. What kind of human work will it replace? Will it replace the sort of work that gives life meaning? Will it merely make life easier? In posing the questions, a confession, I'm not even certain that they're the right ones to ask about artificial intelligence. It's a subject that is truthfully far from my expertise, and it's something that, despite that, should not be approached lightly. It's vast and complicated, and it has profound implications for the human future. Some who study it, like the path-breaking computer scientist Stuart Russell, call it the creation of artificial intelligence, the most profound change in human history. The most profound change in human history. That is quite a statement, and one that deserves theological reflection for sure. Whether it is justified remains to be seen. The core question within it is about something called general purpose or super intelligent artificial intelligence. This is basically the crafting of God. Such an intelligence would have access to the full scope of human knowledge. It would be able to perform any human skill. It would be self-motivating and pursue its own objectives. Presumably, it would be able to harvest the sum of human accomplishments and direct those towards some larger goal. There are both utopian and dystopian visions of what such a general artificial intelligence might resemble. You might be familiar with the dystopian ones from the movie series The Matrix. In them, humans are reduced to little more than fodder for society of super intelligent machines. Others tell more pleasant stories. Stuart Russell describes their dreams as one in which general-purpose artificial intelligence would create a world where everything is a service. Under its reign, there would be no need for armies of specialists in different disciplines, organized into hierarchies of contractors and subcontractors, to carry out a project. Whatever you can imagine, whatever you can desire, a home remodeling project, a piece of literature, a better relationship, a cure for cancer, a plan to visit Venice. Feed it into the general purpose artificial intelligence, and know that if you have the resources, it will bring that dream into being. Such a world is still a ways off. How far? No one knows. Some think it will emerge in our lifetimes. They believe that it is perhaps in the incubation stage, somewhere amid the servers of Silicon Valley. Others think that it is distant, or that it might never emerge, that anything that we consider as such will only be a facsimile of intelligence, not human brilliance itself. In the meantime, artificial intelligence is already profoundly shaping our lives. Algorithms are pushing us further and further into our political silos. The idea of a shared media landscape, and with it a shared national narrative that was so prevalent throughout the 20th century, is gone. And artificial intelligence is playing an increasing role in warfare. The Israeli military uses it to select targets in Gaza. Images generated by artificial intelligence have appeared online in efforts to make Israeli war crimes appear even worse than they are. At the opening of the war in Ukraine, artificial intelligence was used to create a video of President Vladimir Zelensky ordering his fellow Ukrainians to surrender. Lethal autonomous weapon systems, which we euphemistically call killer robots, already exist. According to the BBC, it's possible to find them if you dig through the darkest corners of the internet, a fact I have not chosen to verify. Grim as this comment may be, artificial intelligence is also present in more pleasant and productive spheres. It's used in entertainment. None of the recent Marvel movies would be possible without it. It's used in scientific research. This year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded for work done with artificial intelligence, first in the prize's history. It's used in logistics and plays a role in shipping. So much of what we have, our clothes, our cars, arrives to us because of artificial intelligence. Truthfully, it's just about everywhere. It helps us to live stream our services. You almost certainly carry a device, a smartphone, in your pocket that contains all sorts of AI programs. This morning I used an app to call a car to bring me to our campus. The trip was made possible because a form of artificial intelligence matched me with the nearest driver. The pitcher cries for water, the person for work that is real. In this context, there are so many questions we could be asking about artificial intelligence. But here I turn to the question of work. Queries about a silicon god, the creation of a general-purpose artificial intelligence to which we might sing hymns and lift up an all-hail computer is some ways off. The impact of other forms of artificial intelligence on our lives is already here. How has your life benefited from it? There might be myriad ways. Has it created problems or challenges that you find difficult? Those too might be manifold. The question of work, and by here I mean human activity, has always been fraught by automation. As far back as the Greek philosopher Aristotle, there have been fears about the potentials of machines to replace humans. He observed, if every instrument could accomplish its own work, obeying or anticipating the will of others, chief workmen would not want servants. Automation has long been sold as a way to release us from unpleasant tasks. Laundry machines, dishwashers, labor-saving devices meant to preserve us from undesirable activities and free us for more congenial pursuits have existed for a long time. Artificial intelligence offers much of the same vision. But here I think we should be cautious. I'm from Michigan, and automation, the arrival of robots on the factory floor, decimated the industrial workforce throughout the latter half of the 20th century. In some cases, people found other forms of work. In others, they were simply cast aside. Inequality has risen as a result. The kind of work you can do without a college degree has become less lucrative. Communities have been severely damaged, and the lives of working class men in particular have been made demonstrably worse. A major source of the appeal of the future president is that he has, disingenuously, promised to fix all of this. But what has done cannot be undone. Those jobs, those forms of work that is real are gone. They might be replaced by something else. Economists generally believe that when technology eliminates one kind of work, it replaces it with new forms of labor. That might be true, and it might not. Nobody actually knows the answer. What I do know is this: the pitcher cries for work or for water, and a person for work that is real. We make meaning by doing. I find crafting a sermon satisfying. I suspect that Reverend Scott does as well. Work is something that binds us together. It is a religious task that connects each to all, roots us in this terrestrial sphere, helps us understand how we are part of a greater whole. And I suspect that the artificial intelligence that has arrived, or that the artificial intelligence that can replace our life together, can give us that kind of meaning, has not yet arrived. ChatGPT is a ubiquitous chatbot that is able to generate complicated texts. Some might be satisfying. Some offer what are called hallucinations, made up of information that does not exist. Don't ever use ChatGPT to try to generate a bibliography, for example. Likes to cite books that no one has written. But it can provide useful outlines and even essays that make for, at the very least, an entertaining read. These, though, tend to be largely generic. They need human help to come into being. At a minimum, they require a prompt. The better the prompt, the more useful the result. More often, they require some human intervention to reach their potential. I've been told that our ChatGPT-generated choral anthem would have been something of a disaster if Chelsea had not intervened. And let us face it, Reverend Scott's answer to the prompt was a lot better than the chatbots. And this gets to the core of artificial intelligence and us, at least for the moment. Reverend Scott, last I checked, was a human being with a life story. He has experiences. He can craft something from that which is deep within him. He can have a relationship with you, share your life together. But ChatGPT, well, it's just a computer program. Any experiences, any stories it might come up with will just be material gleaned, drawn, recreated from its vast databases. The replacement of the human with the robot is still a little while off. Will it ever come? I cannot know. But a final comment before we close, because to me, one of the most distressing things about artificial intelligence is something that is almost never discussed. It's a reality that takes place largely outside of the discourse about what it means and what it might mean for us. And it ignores the true context of what genuinely binds us together, the universal religion that we all share by being human beings on this planet, our shared residency on Earth. Artificial intelligence consumes vast amounts of electricity. It and its associated technologies currently account for 2% of global energy use. The number is projected to double by 2026. If such increases continue, and they are projected to, energy use for artificial intelligence has the potential to undermine any progress being made on addressing the climate crisis. Amazon and Google are already so worried about this that they're hoping to build their own nuclear reactors dedicated solely to powering artificial intelligence. This reminder prompts me to end almost exactly where I did earlier. Artificial intelligence, the replacement of meaningful work, the rise of the Silicon God, call it whatever you will. The most important truth before us remains this: we are children of the earth. We are all bound up together, all members of the great family of all souls. The human future depends upon our ability to recall this, and vast computers or not, we must take care of each other and this common treasury we call home. That it might be so, I invite the congregation to say Amen.
And now I invite you to turn in your hymnals to number 281, Our God, Our Help in Ages Past. We will sing verses 1 and verse 3.
As we extinguish our chalice, please read with me the words that are printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let us go in the spirit of love, never knowing when or where we might find the divine, but conscious of the spark within and the unfolding beauty around us. Go in peace, go in love, may our lives be a blessing. Amen. Thank you for joining us. We want to know who you are and would love to connect with you. Please fill out the link to the online attendance form, and if you are on YouTube, click like and subscribe. If you're interested in joining our congregation, email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much.